Here is India's problem in three numbers. The percentage of crude oil India imports. It produces almost none of its own. The percentage of those imports that flow through the Strait of Hormuz. And the number of good options India has when it closes. Whenever there is a conflict in the Middle East, every other country in Asia has a lever to pull. India watches the levers disappear one by one every single time, regardless of which government is in power in Delhi, Washington, or Tehran. Almost half of India's crude oil imports and about 60% of its natural gas supplies move through the Strait of Hormuz. That is the central artery of the Indian economy, and it has been for decades. Around 2.5 to 2.7 million barrels per day of India's crude oil imports pass through the strait, mainly from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait. And the reserve buffer? India holds around 100 million barrels of combined commercial and strategic stocks, enough to cover roughly 25 days of requirements if Hormuz flows are fully disrupted. 25 days, that's the structural clock built into India's economy by geography, not by policy failure. India has a foreign policy doctrine called strategic autonomy. Don't pick sides, stay friends with everyone. Buy oil from whoever is cheapest. Maintain relationships across competing blocs. For most of the post-Cold War era, it worked beautifully. Then, examine the structural trap it creates. Over 10 million Indians work in the Gulf countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. India depends heavily on Gulf nations for energy supplies, and those Gulf states have deep strategic tensions with Iran. India can't side with Iran. It endangers its diaspora and its primary energy suppliers, but it cannot fully side against Iran either. India and Iran have long enjoyed cordial bilateral ties, and Iran holds significance for India as a counterweight to China-Pakistan influence in the region. And then there is the exit door India used in the last crisis: cheap Russian crude. After a trade deal, the US removed punitive tariffs on India, but only after New Delhi committed to reduce Russian oil imports, with Washington signaling it would monitor compliance closely. The escape hatch is sealed. Every time Washington and Delhi tighten their relationship, it costs India one more degree of energy flexibility. India's best position is quick de-escalation. Unlike Russia, it gains nothing from high oil prices. Unlike China, it lacks a massive domestic market to absorb shocks. New Delhi's diplomatic neutrality isn't philosophy, it's survival. Now, here's the layer that nobody talks about, and it applies every single time oil spikes. When oil prices rise, India doesn't just pay more for oil, it pays more in dollars, which weakens the rupee, which makes oil even more expensive in rupee terms, which spreads inflation through fuel, transport, food, and every manufactured good in the economy. The Reserve Bank of India faces a classic dilemma: raise interest rates to contain inflation and hurt growth, or let the rupee depreciate and fuel imported inflation further. There is no good option, only less bad ones. And the effect is felt at the most household level. India imports about 80 to 85% of its LPG needs, mostly from Gulf suppliers through Hormuz. And unlike crude oil, India does not maintain large strategic LPG reserves, making supplies far more sensitive to any disruption. The kitchen gas cylinder runs out before the government runs out of reserves. That's not a financial crisis, that's a political one, and Indian governments of every stripe know it. Now, here is what makes India's story permanently relevant regardless of which conflict triggers it. India is the world's most ambitious rising power, a country actively trying to join the first tier of global influence. It is simultaneously one of the most energy insecure major economies on Earth. Those two facts are in permanent tension. Every time India tries to assert strategic independence, every time it buys from Russia or engages with Iran or resists American pressure, it risks the energy relationships that keep its economy running. Every time it aligns with Washington or Riyadh, it loses flexibility, pays higher prices, and discovers that alignment comes with conditions. India gains nothing from high oil prices and has limited capacity to absorb external shocks. Its neutrality is not ideology. It is the only affordable strategy for a country at India's stage of development. In the Middle East crisis, Japan is exposed but passive, and China has leverage it can fully show. But India is exposed and trapped by its own ambition, trapped between Washington's demands, Gulf's dependence, Iranian relationships, and a Russian supply line it periodically agrees to cut off. Strategic autonomy sounds powerful in peacetime, but in a crisis, it means you have made promises to everyone and can fully deliver to no one. That's India's permanent condition in the global energy system. Not weakness, not failure, just the inevitable geometry of a rising power that still needs everyone else's oil to rise.